We're all made of layers, the ones we show the world and the ones we keep just for ourselves. On the Layers of Us podcast, we peel back those layers through honest conversations about identity, growth, and the stories that shape us. From queer and BIPOC voices to anyone with a layered story to tell, this is where we explore where we've been, what we've carried, and who we're becoming, one story at a time. I'm your host, Amanda Wan, and this is The Layers of Us. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to the podcast. So today we have Courtney with us. So hi Courtney.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming on. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, your identity, all those things?
Yes, first of all, Amanda, thank you so much for having me. We were just chatting about how we feel like friends, though we have never officially met. So my name is Courtney Davila. I am a fashion stylist. I have been styling for 6 years. I am also a queer person, a proud part of the LGBTQ plus community. So being a lesbian is a really big part of self-expression and who I am and how that feeds into my career. I do a combination of editorial and red carpet, e-commerce, and personal styling gigs, and that's what keeps me busy these days.
I love that. Can you kind of share a little bit about your queer journey and like your basically queer identity, and when did you first start to explore and embrace that part of yourself?
So for me, queerness is something I came into that took a very long time, and no one has to go, I'm queer and I do XYZ, but I feel like I fought so hard to find my identity and to come to terms with it and accept it that I do kind of want to shout it from the rooftop sometimes, and also hopefully serve as some representation in the fashion industry because there are so many queer people here and we just don't talk about it a lot. I am happy to be a voice for us in this industry as much as I possibly can. And the intersection of my identity in terms of fashion and queerness, like those two are inextricably linked to me. There's no fashion industry without LGBTQ people, especially trans people and gay people and even lesbians. We're a huge part of this industry. And I love being queer.
No, me too. Honestly, I feel like I talk about it all the time and people are like, why do you have to talk about it all the time? But I feel like for so long of my life, I kind of put it to the side and ignored it, that now I'm like, I will talk about it every single day and I don't care.
Exactly. Yes.
But what was your coming out experience like with your family, with your friends, with the people closest to you?
It was definitely a journey. I'm kind of like cusp millennial and Gen Z, so I didn't grow up going people are just going to have to accept me. I don't care what they think. That was never me. I grew up religious, so I was very afraid of just the queer community in general. It wasn't very much talked about in my family. It wasn't an open conversation to be had. So coming out definitely happened in stages for me. So I started questioning my sexuality in high school, thanks to tumblr.com and things like Orange is the New Black and, discovering the L word and all of that. And into college, I was like, I'm going to be out and proud and queer. And then people were still homophobic. I didn't come out because I didn't feel ready because I think the public opinion of lesbians and queer people was still really low and derogatory. So I kind of crept back into the closet and ended up getting in a, heteronormative relationship for 3 years. I had a wonderful time, but also was definitely struggling internally as far as something's missing. And I'm shutting down a part of myself that I know is there. And that was really, really difficult. And my partner was so sweet and patient with me throughout the whole process. And so when I ended that relationship, which was barely 6 months before COVID, I was like, this is it for me. When I break up with this person, I'm coming out and there's just no way around it. So I started coming out slowly again to friends, and I think it was a surprise to a lot of people. I definitely hit it very well, unfortunately, for everyone involved. So, and then COVID happened. I'm in lockdown. I'm around my parents 24/7, and so much is happening. I just remember being around the house, crying at the toaster, making breakfast. My mom's like, you got to talk. What's wrong? And I did the whole, well, you guys still love me kind of thing. And they were like, yeah, but we didn't know you were gay. How'd you know that? And I was like, sorry, I've been lying for 5 years. I've been stifling and hiding this part of myself. And so much so to the point where I really lost touch with my motivation for life and my joy. And just who I am, that it had to happen. So it was a journey, but my parents thankfully took it very well, much better than I was expecting. And I couldn't be more lucky and grateful to have my two
Yeah.
allies.
Yeah, that's amazing. We kind of have like a similar-ish story. I came out when I was 16 as bi, and then like I was dating a man for about 6, 7 years, and towards the last year of that relationship, I like knew that something was missing, and I kind of knew what it was, but I kind of was scared to like admit it to myself and to like him and to everyone and just like embrace that. But then when we ended up breaking up, I knew like, okay, like this is my entry into like being a lesbian and like coming out as one and everything. And now I feel like my life is so different. But if I was thinking about back then, I felt like I would have never like lived this life, if that makes sense. Like I just felt like
Yeah.
maybe like stuck, or like because I was comfortable with him and like everyone knowing me as like, oh, like Amanda's bi and like she's with a man and stuff like that. I just felt very comfortable in that identity, but I knew it like wasn't me. So coming out like kind of like liberated me in a sense. But you also spoke about growing up religious and stuff. And I also grew up religious, and I went to like an all girls Catholic high school and all these things. Um, what was it like for you to kind of be religious and be queer? And now, do you still practice religion, or is that something of your past?
Yeah, it's super strange. I grew up in a very, like, I would say small town kind of vibe religious community here in Orange County, California, which I think people already have perceptions about. And overall, it was, wonderful upbringing, but the religious pressure and the pressure to conform and really the institutionality of it all, like, really, I felt hindered me. And I felt so small in the shadow of the Catholic Church, which is what I was raised in, and just the things that we were taught week to week. And then you probably did confirmation since you went to Catholic school. Everything felt so limited and so small and so binding. And I'm someone who, I played that part as a kid, but as I grew older, I was like, fuck the rules. Like, I do not like to conform. I don't like authority. And so for that reason, I started that confirmation journey, which, if you don't know, it's like a Catholic, like in my case, it was like 2 years of like basically like biweekly lessons of like, here's how to be a good Catholic, according to us. And here's why you want to be like this way forever. And it's a really intense experience, for someone who's like 15, 16 years old, who's also stepping into their queerness. So I just didn't feel like being queer was an option, because before I could even think about that, they're like, queerness is bad. Gay people are bad.
Yeah.
Gay marriage is bad. I remember, 2015 gay marriage being legalized and going to church the next Sunday and then being like, the fight for marriage, isn't over. And I was just like, whoa. Like, I was in a church where it was very political. It was not subtle. And for me, that just really prevented me from coming out, because I thought, well, my family won't love me because their church won't love them if I'm queer. So that was a big hurdle of, as far as like the opposite of what community should be. It was really like, don't be who you are, conform, 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 play it small. And everyone in that church was so miserable, and it just made me so sad. Um, and for that reason, I really haven't revisited religion, since. I remember going to college, I wrote down a list of like queer affirming churches, and I thought I would go. And then I really just didn't feel like I needed that. But my parents have continued to go to affirming churches, and they've loved the experience. They're still finding a place that feels like home. But I think religion is tricky for that reason, is that it's run by humans, and humans are imperfect, and we all have our own agendas.
Yeah, no, I agree. And talking about community, were there any like specific people, communities, or influences that helped you feel like more confident in your queerness when you came out, and even now, like still embracing it?
Yeah, I mean, community it's life-saving and essential. And I feel like when I was in college, which was 2016 to 2020, that really wasn't a big part of the conversation. Community was going to a rager and getting, drinking and that sort of thing. But I did have my fashion community in college. I was in a club, where I was on the leadership board for, and I loved it. Even though I couldn't be my biggest, truest self, I was able to talk about what I was most passionate about, which was clothing and
Yeah.
fashion and sustainability. So I had that. And I had so many friends, many of who I'm so close with today, who really saw me, I think, behind the depression and the kind of um,
Yeah.
just the weirdness you face around identity in college and how no one's really certain about who they are. I think they saw through that and they stuck it with me, which I really appreciate. But now I think after lockdown happened, we realized how essential community is. And so I really made it a point to join local queer community, which I have found here in Orange County, which is amazing. I'm part of a book club called Sapphic Reads and Socials, which is like my lifeline. My wonderful friend
Okay.
Hershey runs it, and like everyone should join. It meets in LA and OC. And then I'm also part of Queer Kickball League, affiliated with Out Loud Sports, and that is just amazing. I've been doing it for a few seasons now. Never was athletic, but it's just like we all want friends, and we all want community, and we all want to hang out and just have it be like feel like everyday and casual, and we need that.
Yeah. And talking about like clothing and fashion, how do you kind of use clothing as a tool of like self-expression?
That's such a good one. I feel like I've always used it as a tool of self-expression. I was going back last night. I used to make YouTube videos when I was in middle school. That's the real coming out, is that I used to be a YouTuber. And I just like remember seeing people do that online and being like, I want to share my outfits. I want to share my DIY tutorials. And I think I just felt this massive calling towards utilizing fashion and decorating my clothing as self-expression, putting together outfits. And it just felt so right. And because I just didn't really feel like super seen, as a young kid, middle school to high school, um, focusing on fashion and decorating my clothes, upcycling was a way for me to express that I did feel a little bit different. And I was always kind of that kid who was described as like unique, not to be a pick me. But I just felt like I didn't fit in. I think a lot of people feel that, but my queerness was definitely like this invisible force tugging at me that was like, you are meant for like a bigger life than what you're living. And so I used fashion to maybe say the things I didn't have the words or the vocabulary for at that time.
Yeah. And in terms of like the fashion industry making progress when it comes to like queer and non-binary representation, where do you think it's at right now? I do think it's evolved, but like as someone who's in the fashion world, I feel like you have a better analysis of it. So where is it at for you?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I definitely think it's made a ton of strides. I feel
Mhm.
super grateful. My first freelance gig was for a pride campaign, and that
Okay.
was such an amazing experience. We like shot on the rooftop of the LA LGBT Center. It was like just felt like something out of my wildest dreams. But overall, I feel like the industry is progressive. And when I say that, I mean like the people in the industry. I feel like I know I
Mhm.
come to set and people are like, oh, do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Like there's just kind of this
Yeah.
question of like, it's okay with me. Are queer people or queer voices centered in the industry? Not at all. I definitely am like a pronoun police of like, hey, this person uses they, them. Like, make sure you do that,
Yeah.
which I feel like happens in many spaces. So overall, I would say it's an education issue and a visibility issue, but I'm always looking for ways to uplift my fellow queer fam in fashion.
When it comes to you working with clients and stuff, how do you approach helping them find like a look that feels authentic to who they are?
That is why people hire me. And honestly, I think I'm still figuring out ways to improve every
Mhm.
single day. Um, I feel like the first tool I have people use is Pinterest because a lot of people maybe can't express verbally what they're looking for, but they can like look at a picture or like mention a celebrity and they go, I want to look like that. And what they really mean is I want to embody that. So it may not be about the clothes themselves or the colors, but rather the energy or the confidence that someone's giving off. So I had a recent client say, I love Renee Rapp's, masculine and feminine looks. And it's like, because she embodies the
Mhm.
confidence it takes to switch it up and pull off both, styles. And so
Yeah.
definitely starting visually as a guide is so important. And then I usually ask people, what are your style goals? Is it dressing in a way that makes you feel better about your body? Is it dressing in a way that makes you feel more equipped for your life or your workplace? And we kind of start from there. And then you just show people things and they say yes, no, maybe. And I always am someone who's like pushing people to their boundaries of like, let's go crazy with fashion. Like we have one life, like why not dress however the hell you want? And if you end up not liking it, at least you have known that you tried it.
For sure. And you styled for big brands like Revolve, Nickelodeon, and more. What would you say has been one of your favorite projects so far?
Ugh. I mean, I feel like every project is so uniquely different and that I learned so many things while on the job. And so for that reason, I think the Nickelodeon job is my favorite because it pushed me professionally and creatively in ways I've never really stretched before.
Yeah.
So this was my first time on basically a big production set. It was the Kids' Choice Awards 2025, which I was so grateful to be a part of. Have no clue if I'll be asked back because I was so green. I was such a beginner to the film world. I've been mostly in the
Mhm.
commercial retail world, so it was just a huge learning curve. Like being with the trailers and crafty and like
Yeah.
all of talent wranglers and all of this stuff. It was so new to me, but it was truly so special. I just felt like every day I was so lucky to be there and learning constantly so much. So that was a fabulous experience. It was amazing to be part of a team of hundreds of people who are showing up, 12 hours a day to make this event look effortless to viewers at home, and just seeing everyone look so happy with their work and just be so delighted to be there. It's You get swept up in that energy and it just feels so
Yeah.
intoxicating. So it was super hard work. I mean, like your week or your 2 weeks is like gone. Like you're totally
Mhm.
focused on someone else's project, which is definitely new to me. But it was just the greatest learning experience ever, and I had so much fun doing it.
Yeah. Were you like styling talent or like what was the process like?
Yes, I was referred by a previous client of mine to style the red or orange carpet, rather, hosts Jane McManus and Owen Holt, and they're fabulous clients. They're both young and super stylish, so it was just so fun to pull a bunch of looks for them and see what worked, and then see them in action on the red carpet
Yeah.
and at the after party. It was just like it was a blast.
So fun. Who would you say is like your dream person to style?
So I kind of have two groups. One is like I want to style like for the WNBA. Like that's a big old lesbian dream of mine.
Yeah.
Because that would be their like walkout looks are stunning, their tunnel outfits. That's just a dream come true for me. And then also musical artists I would love to style. And I think both of these call out to me because you do get to be a little bit extra and crazy and help someone develop a look, and develop a branding through their style. So there's just so many people I could mention. So those are kind of the two areas where I really love to grow into.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you say is kind of like a misconception that people have about like the role of a stylist that you've heard and been like, yeah, no, that's actually not what I do or how it works?
Okay, that question I could go on for literal hours. I was just chatting to someone about this yesterday. I think it's such a behind the scenes sort of job that a lot of people
Hmm.
think we show up with clothes and we just play around and we just stand there,
Yeah.
and they don't see the prep work that goes into it. So, you may only see me for 4 hours on set, but that doesn't mean I was not
Yeah.
working 40 hours leading up to that to make it happen, whether that's contacting vendors or showrooms or designers, creating mood boards, taking down measurements, shopping constantly, making returns, making sure things fit, renting equipment. There's so much that goes into it. And
Mhm.
also, keeping up your expertise and your styling kit and replenishing your supplies, admin work. It literally is a full-time job. And so when people ask me to show up like, hey, can you help and style this shoot, and I go, sure, what's the budget? And they go, there's no budget and there's no rate. And I go, okay, well, that's called unpaid work. And unfortunately, I cannot devote a week to that anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome to do in the beginning of your career if you have the time and the willingness and the energy. But at this point, it's just not worth it for me to show up and be asked to bring clothes and my styling kit and my expertise and craft a look for you. I think that should be paid, and it's something I will shout from the rooftops that people just don't
Yeah.
know what goes into it. They think it looks easy, and I'm so glad we make it look easy.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think anything that you're putting your expertise, your time, and your effort in should be paid. And like, I always think of that in terms of like internships too. I'm like, I never understood
Yeah.
unpaid internships because like you do a lot in an internship. Like, it's not like you're just there sitting and watching. Like, you are putting in like hard work and time. So I always think like whatever you're doing, you should be paid for your time and effort. I think that's like really important. And I agree with you. Like people like don't see the behind the scenes of a lot of things and just assume things are easy. Like for me, for example, with like content creation, like this podcast and
Yeah.
everything, people are just like, oh, like you just talk to people and like you post it and like that's so easy. But like there's so much other things that go into it. And I always tell someone like if you think something's so easy, just like try it for like a week and then you'll realize like it's not easy.
I will also say, I think styling is definitely still seen as woman's work, which is something that
Mhm.
really grinds my gears. Whereas, a shoot might hire a photographer, they might hire a makeup artist because professional makeup is,
Yeah.
an amazing service to have. And the stylists are like, well, you're just coming to bring clothes. Like, I don't have to pay you. Like, that's your job. And it's like,
Mhm.
what? Like, I
Yeah, like
don't
how is
know
this my job if I'm not getting paid?
that part. And I think this industry has been ran by women in costuming and costume design too. And it's just seen as such, well, this is what you do. And it's like, it's what we do, and it's unseen labor, and we should be paid for it because of the years of expertise, because of the supplies, because of the knowledge and the perspective we bring, whether it's to an editorial shoot or an e-commerce shoot. We are helping you create results that sell or that push forward your brand or your marketing purpose. And without us, you're going to have things from Amazon unsteamed on a model. That's You can do that if you don't want to pay a stylist. Absolutely, that is your prerogative. But if you want results that work, if you want beautiful looks and beautiful outfits from local emerging designers, you know who to call.
Yeah, exactly. And you also emphasize a lot about sustainability within your work and everything. How do you make sure that you bring those values into like the industry and your own work? Like, do you shop like only sustainably? Do you reuse stuff? Like, how does that work for you?
Absolutely. Styling is actually a very difficult industry to be sustainable and ethical in, surprisingly or unsurprisingly. A lot of brands I shoot with, or shoots I do, they want to buy in return, which for those who don't know, it's when you purchase clothes from a retail store and then return. It's not the most ethical process. They're usually worn once. The shoes, you got to like put tape on them so they don't get scuffed up and dirty, and you can return as if nothing happened. So that's a huge part of the industry that is an area of growth that often comes from a lack of budget for clothing, again, because people think we get clothing for free, which is not always the case. However, what I've chosen to incorporate is, which a lot of stylists do as well, as having and maintaining my own styling closet. So I'll have like basic pieces, undergarments, socks, accessories that I use and rotate as much as I possibly can, jewelry. And you'd not be surprised how many of my shoots have the same pair of shoes or the same jewelry, which just
Mhm.
helps me cut costs and also, save the planet where I can. And I do a lot of thrifting, for those basics. I try to also source from, any of my friends who are designers. One of my friends designs this jewelry for this brand called Love Chain. So I've been really fortunate to use a lot of her stuff on my shoots. And then the next most sustainable thing is, I think, pulling from showrooms. So showrooms are where
Mhm.
stylists can go to pull from designers, because the designers pay rent in those showrooms. And therefore, we're kind of performing a creative trade in which I get their clothing shown on a model or a shoot, and they get press. And so that
Yeah.
can only happen in certain circumstances. It's not for every single client. You definitely need to have an important project in order for that to happen. So that's kind of a misconception of when I can get clothes for free and when I can't. But it is sustainable because they're being used over and over again. So that is a great
Yeah.
thing. What I really wish is that stylists as a group could all kind of swap clothes and be able to pull from one another. Like that would be awesome. And I hope someone starts that. If it has to be me, I'll do it. But like, if
Yeah. You never
something's
know.
already in the works, please let me
Yeah.
know, because gosh, we need it. And who would notice? Only us.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like I would never like being an outsider, like I would never notice any of that stuff. Like I would just appreciate what I'm seeing and like not really know the behind the scenes of all that.
Totally.
So you also created a free mentorship group for aspiring stylists. What kind of sparked your idea to start this?
Yes. Again, I'm the person, I will start something if it doesn't already exist, because I feel
Hmm.
a beautiful Catholic obligation to do it.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I think I'm just an overachiever. But yes, a bunch of people reached out on my website one week and they were like, "Hi, I'm an aspiring stylist. Like, I came across your profile, like, how can I get started? And I remember being so shocked, like, oh my God, I feel like still a kid in this industry sometimes and still so new after, less than 10 years. So I was just so honored that people reached out to me. So I ended up offering like free one-on-one calls. And I thought, let me pop us on a little Instagram chat and see what happens. And apparently there's already one for makeup artists where they kind of convene and chat about the industry and attend workshops together. So I had this big vision where we'd all like hang out and like have workshops, and that has not come to fruition because again, it's another job to run something else. But it's been so awesome to have all these talented young stylists um, in a group chat and just have people be able to submit a project they're like really excited about, and we all get to hype them up or like ask a question like how, what tape do you use to tape on the bottom of shoes, and we can all, you know tap in and answer what worked for us, what didn't. And just having that as like a free space, I think there's so many stylist mentors who put a paywall to their communities, and I totally understand that because a lot of labor and time goes into it and expertise. But as someone who is still pretty early on in their career, I think just offering this space with no barriers has been really sweet, and I hope we can do a lot more soon.
Yeah. And if someone's listening to this right now and they kind of want to break into styling or like start working in that field, what's like one practical step that they can like take today after getting off of this podcast and listening to kind of start that?
Absolutely. The number one advice I'd give for anyone trying to break into the creative industry, especially styling, is to make a portfolio website. It does not have, you don't
Yeah.
have to purchase a domain. I literally got my first gig off of a portfolio I made in college that was like so crappy and so weird, but someone needed a queer stylist and they found me. And that's what booked me that first gig that led to so many others. So it's awesome to have an Instagram. It's awesome to make in-person connections and do test shoots. But without a website, people who are, in the casting departments can't find you. And so just having a
Yeah.
website with your name and some projects you've done, a little bit about you, where you're located, it goes such a long way. And it also feels so exciting. It feels like you're legit. So that's my biggest tip to
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. I love that. And what would you say is one like outfit or piece of clothing that always makes you feel like most yourself?
Oh my gosh. I love that question so much. I would hands down say a suit. I love
Mhm.
suits. I have a small collection of thrifted and ones I purchased. I really wanted to wear a blazer today, but it is so hot. I love a suit, like colors, patterns. I think there's nothing more empowering, especially as someone like in a female body, to like put on a suit and just feel like taking
Yeah.
up that extra space, and kind of your posture changes and you see yourself in pictures. You look so professional and so cool. I think there's you just can't go wrong
100%.
with the suit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And looking ahead, what are you most excited about, whether it's in your like your styling career, your mentorship, your personal journey? What are you most excited for in the next like year?
Oh gosh, I'm excited for it all. I feel super open. This is a very constantly evolving industry and career, and I'm always willing to stop and pause and think about what else I can do instead, or what can I incorporate into this. So it's constantly changing. So I constantly change alongside with it. And so I'm just excited for whatever the next season has to offer for me. I am doing my first speaking gig at a fashion event in LA
So
called Monochromatic. I'm so darn excited about that. I'll be talking about sustainability and styling. And I'm just excited for just more opportunities to talk about how we can improve the styling industry as a whole.
yes, I love that. So excited for you. And the last question I had is, since the podcast is called The Layers of Us, what layer would you like to kind of pull back and learn more about yourself in the upcoming year?
Yes, that's a lovely question. I would definitely
Thank you.
say, yeah, I would definitely say like my gender expression, gender identity. That's another thing that I'm constantly tweaking and evolving. And I think a lot of us in the queer community and outside of it do without even realizing is, whether that's like a haircut decision or the way we wear our jewelry or present ourselves, just fully stepping into who I am without boundaries, without needing a label, and just expressing myself as I dream about. That is truly what I'm most excited about. And there can be so much shame and weirdness around that. Like you said, even trying to correct your pronouns in someone, like, can be such an obstacle when it doesn't have to be. It can just be like an everyday thing. Um,
Mhm.
I'm just most excited to express myself however I see fit in the moment, and allow that to change and grow over time.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much again for coming on and sharing all this with us. Before you leave, do you want to shout out any of your socials, where people can find you, where they can potentially work with you as well?
Yes, absolutely. If you want to check out my portfolio, I'm constantly adding to it. It's CourtneyDavila.com. I'm on Instagram and Threads at Court Stylist, Court Stylist. And I'm on TikTok and YouTube as Your Lesbian Stylist. So I changed that one recently to kind of rebrand.
I love
So I
that.
hope to see
Love
you
that
there.
name.
Thank you.